will be playing Bach's First Suite, Prelude, and Courante.
Really excellent performance. Beautiful playing. You're getting around. These are, just a lot of technical challenges here. You're getting around those super nice. So, the stuff that I'm going to offer is like more kind of a little bit subjective and more on the artistry side of things. So, I think with the Prelude, one thing that you might think about is just the pacing of it. This is it's pretty much like running 16 notes the whole time. So the interest is in this harmony. And this harmony is moving from G major to E minor, and then we have all these interesting kind of surprising harmonic points too. And you're doing a nice job of like adding some sense of like motion to some, and then some arrival to some. I think you could just do that more, and I think you could be a little bit more like refined and convincing about it. And again, that's like it's kind of subjective. But sometimes to me, I feel like you're rushing through some of the points that could be these bigger arrival points. And then you can also, again, like with Bach, he doesn't give us anything in terms of shaping and dynamics and things like that. You're doing a lot of that, which is great, but I think you could just refine it a little bit more. It's almost like, I don't know if this makes sense at all, but I feel like you've refined this movement with like sandpaper, but let's use a much like finer grade of sandpaper, and let's make it like that much more polished. In the Courante, one thing that you might think about is just be careful that it doesn't become too heavy. And actually, I wonder if this might even relate to your left hand a little bit. You've got really great technique, but sometimes I wonder if your left hand is almost squeezing a little bit too much. And that can, like, if there's tension there, it can cause tension in other places. And this whole movement should feel like really light and dance-like, almost like a hummingbird kind of flitting around. Sometimes to me, again, this is being nitpicky. But it maybe was feeling a little bit heavy. And so that's something to kind of think about just with the general flow of that movement. And really excellent performance in general.
Agreed. I would add that if you haven't done this already in the Prelude, play the chord progression, play the chords, do it a bunch, and think about for yourself, where does it feel like there's more tension, and where does it feel like there's some release? Just when you're playing the chord progression, because Bach started with that and then put notes in between to fill in that beautiful, fill it in as a melody. So he was approaching it from, we always think melodic line, okay, let's go. But he was thinking chord, chord, chord. The Courante, I think what's contributing to the heaviness a little bit is that you're trying to balance a downbeat with a bass line, right? And it's so hard because we want the G to ring, we want the bass line to be heard, but we also have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2 that we want to feel. So I guess I would say, see if there are ways that you can feel like you can make that bass line resonate without accenting it quite so much, and just stick with those downbeats and see if that helps the sort of lightness of it. Let your downbeat just bounce to the next one, to the next one. And yeah, so play with that. It's one of the great difficulties of playing these suites, that we have to be our own bass line and melodic line, but that's,